Hello, this is Sheet Music Singer. In this video, I'm going to tell you about sheet music, what sheet music is, and my views also. Let me show you some sheet music that I've collected. Here are a few, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about them. First of all, what sheet music is anytime notes are written down on paper and published that way, it's sheet music. This is a march called Under the Double Eagle, and this is a piano instrumental. We have all different styles of music that can be in the in sheet format. Here's a classical piece, Sur la glace à Sweet Briar. It's a waltz, classical waltz, and you can see it's notes, no words. Sheet music can be old or new. Here's an older one, Dardanella from, I think it's, well, let me see, it tells right on here. This is 1919. Now that doesn't mean that this printing was done in 1919, because over the years these got reprinted and reprinted. They'd have different covers. They'd put when a new recording was made, sometimes they would put a reissue with the photograph of the performer onto the sheet music cover to increase sales. So this is a pop song sheet music, and you can see that it has piano part, and it also has the vocal, the melody part, and that's going to be, the melody part is going to be very important for us. It's got lyrics, and as far as I'm concerned, sheet music for a song that was published by a publisher was a standard edition, became a standard song. The standard edition, it's just an arrangement, one of many possible arrangements. There were different arrangements, sometimes on records or on piano rolls, but the arrangement on the standard edition sheet music is a good arrangement to show you the basic song. The rhythm, it's got the tempo, it's got all the lyrics, all the verses, and later on it also included chord information for ukuleles at first, and then guitars, and then just the cymbals that can be used by any chording instrument. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the age of, I started about the age of the music. That's an older one, and here's a newer piece, because this is not just historic. They're still, sheet musics are still being created for the songs. I mentioned classical music. Sacred music is on sheet music for use in churches, and country music is there, and old stuff and new stuff. This is a pop song. Now this is an interesting one, California, recorded by Phantom Planet in 2002. The sheet music tells you all kinds of information about the song, who the authors were, and sometimes the arrangement. This one does give the arrangement. Dan Coates is the arranger. That's rare though. They usually tell you who wrote the music, which means the melody, and who wrote the words or the lyrics. 2002, we get this song, and you know what? It's based on a song, though, from way back in the 20s. It's based on California, Here I Come. 1924 song. Now, you'll also find collections instead of single sheets, which, by the way, the standard price for a single sheet is $3.95, roughly $4. That's if for it, that's for new. That's for if a sheet music is maybe old, but it's not rare. It's not really special in any way. It's just that's just the standard price. They can be worth much more than that in certain situations, and and one of the way of telling how old or how authentic a sheet music is by the price. So this is 60 cents. So I know that that's quite a long ways away, because now this would be $4, and it was 60 cents printed on there. And you can actually find the most sheet music nowadays in collections, which are books that'll have a whole lot of songs. This is the same. These are the same songs and the same arrangements. Here's "The Lady in Love with You" from 1939, and you can find these in the library and also in music stores that sell instruments. This is the same as the single song sheet music I showed you before, but it's in a collection. And this one is called the Fourth Paramount Pictures Song Folio with Words and Music. But basically, as you can see on the cover here, they're showing you the individual sheet musics for the songs that are in the collection. And generally nowadays, these are called it'll be called piano, vocal / guitar. Vocal piano or piano vocal, something like that. I mentioned figuring out how old a copy of sheet music is, and one way is by the size. It's one little tip-off that you can use. These standard size for sheets, ever since about World War I, is 9 by 11. 9 by 12. 9 by 12 inches. Now it's kind of hard to come by. I'm measuring this with a ruler here. 9 the sideways, and 12, which is this whole ruler, 12 the tall ways. You know, it's kind of hard to come by paper that size, and but actually it was even the sheets were even larger than that before they became fixed on 9 by 12. They were 11 by 14, which was quite a bit bigger. I don't happen to have any of those, but I do have a newer one that's smaller. This one is, it says 1954. It's about 61 years ago. And if this truly was printed then, this one is standard size for notebook writing paper, 8.5 by 11 inches. Now, when you print out or when you copy the larger sheet music, you generally have to shrink it down to 8.5 by 11. You shrink it in a copy machine or scanner, and you know, it has settings for reducing, or you can print out when you control it to a printer, like a laser printer or something like that. You want to it'll have to shrink, because you don't want to cut notes off. You want to get the full page if you can. You really need all. You can't cut the information off. All right. Now you might wonder how these were made. I was just learned recently that the way they're made, and you can watch YouTube videos of the process. They were made by taking a sheet of metal and actually engraving by stamping and pounding and cutting out the areas where the notes will go, I'll show you a couple of different examples here. Here's a 1922 song, Stumbling. I found this in an antique shop. And so I'm pretty sure that these were actually cut the way that I'm talking about and then engraved from metal. And the nice thing about that is that they were able to be made anywhere then, because a person only had to have the stamps, the metal stamps. They're like chisels for the notes and the flags and these the slur lines across the top or bottom. These longer slur lines, they were actually done by hand with a cutting tool. And when you start studying these really close, you can tell that they're hand done. The spacing and everything was done by hand. Whereas a newer one like Greatest Love of All, Whitney Houston, this was made by computers. And so it's just computer perfect. It doesn't have so much of the human element in it. Although it still may have mistakes. But they'll be perfect looking mistakes. Another fact that we have to know about sheet music is the copyright laws. And they were extended at some point, so copyright is frozen in 1922, and I believe that the new law said that it had to be 95 years for the benefit of the authors and creators, composers, and their families. And in a lot of cases now, it's gone on to the companies, the big publishers and holding houses that own the music copyright. They have 95 years to restrict the use of the music. And so I like to work in the public domain in the older time periods because I have full access. I can find lots and lots of information and lots of places where I have copies in various forms of the older songs. Once we're in the home of the Sheet Music Consortium, let's look for that sheet music, Stumbling. If I just search for Stumbling, I'm going to get a whole bunch of stumblings, but they're mostly, now there's the one that I'm looking for. But I can narrow this search down by clicking this little checkbox here. It's very useful. Digitized sheet music only. And so if I research now, it just gives me the locations at the top where the Stumbling came up. And when we view online, there it is. Looks like I've got two different covers for this, and I can also view the sheet music itself. This view of the sheet music didn't have the cover or the extra pages. It's only just the song part. And then right over here in the upper right hand corner, I can click that to download the sheet music. Now I'm going to close that window and go back and show you that you can also look at these covers. Here's the cover of it that I have. And I'm going to make that bigger to show that on the whole screen. I can right click on that to save the image, and it's going to be a JPEG. Yeah, that's the only option. It'll be a JPEG, but that's okay. It works on Windows anyway. Now I'll get rid of that. I'll look at the other one. This one said that it came out in 1921. I wasn't aware of that. 1921. If you look at this cover sheet, same guy, yeah. Zez Confer, yep, he wrote the other one. And so let me look for that one. If you remember, this has a peacock looking thing on it. And so if we go back to our search area, there's one with the peacock on it. And it says, Mississippi State has one that says 1921. In this view, they have the whole thing together. It's the sheet music, but then when you go down here it says 1922. So I don't know what's up with that, because the record for it said 1921. I focus on 1922 in my project because that's the most recent year that is open, fair use. In other words, the sheet music, when we're talking about sheet music, printed sheets of musical arrangements, 1922 and before are in the public domain. They're no longer under copyright. So you can do anything that you want with them. People can, of course, still sell them. You can still pay for them if you want to, but you don't have to. And I'm going to show you in another video, I'm going to show you about the Sheet Music Consortium. And let me talk a little bit about collectors. Collecting things is a great hobby, and it's a project that some people take quite seriously. For example, coin collectors and stamp collectors. Well, over the years, quite a few people have, I would say many hundreds of people, because these sheets go way back to 1800 is about when they started. Certainly by 1850, when Stephen Foster came on the scene, you had minstrel shows that were selling. They would, and also there were stage shows like what became Broadway later. Traveling stage shows would sell the music associated with the songs. And so we know we have plenty from the 1850s era. So because of that, many people over the years have collected sheet music as a hobby, and some of the larger collections have been donated by the collectors themselves or their families, have been donated to universities, and the Library of Congress has a lot, Smithsonian Institute has a lot, and one of these universities in particular, UCLA, has organized many of these collections, these large collections. They've organized the scanning and the presenting of these, and I will show you about getting all of the. You can get Stumbling this piece right here online because it's 1922 or before, whereas you're not going to find in an open collection that's public domain, you're not going to find Greatest Love of All because it's still under copyright. And this tells me that Gold Horizon Music Corporation is the owner of this. Now, why am I so interested and excited about sheet music? Well, let me tell you a little fact about sheet music. As I told you, sheets were made to represent songs. They were a form of recording, so we'll call it an arrangement of the song that tells you pretty much everything, the essentials about the song itself. It doesn't have a lot of extra styling, so it's not, the sheet music is not jazzy, for example. It doesn't have the style of country music built into it. It's just the song itself. And the performers are a whole other area of what makes a song good and makes it memorable and popular and all. But where was I going with this? Oh, yes. What I'm telling you is that at the beginning of recording, you would think that once we got records or vinyl, the 78s in particular, 78 records, you would think that they would just do away with sheet music. But as I told you, we still have sheet music today. Now, why is that? Because in the beginning, remember, before there was a lot of electronics and microphones and speakers, they used horns. They did acoustical recording and playback with large horns that they would play music and sing into, and they weren't very good. The quality wasn't very good, and that continued into the 20s, so that the quality of recording was nothing like we have today. We have very good. You can a singer can be made to be right on in tune, and you can have no noise whatsoever. You've got noise. The noise is reduced to a minimum. Whereas back in those days, they were not that realistic sounding. You could definitely tell you were listening to a record. But if somebody had the sheet music and could play the piano and read notes, and maybe that person would sing or another person would sing the song, then that's a live performance, and that was better than records. That's why the player piano rolls were good, because when they played, that was the real deal. And I'm going to make another video about player piano rolls and how they relate to all of this. And yet another video on the fact that this is the golden age. In my opinion, this is the golden age for this old music through the piano roll collectors and the sheet music collections that are now being scanned and made available online. I would like for my wife, who's a great music lover, to come on now and tell you a little bit about how she looks at all this old music. What do you think about this music project?
Well, I think it's very interesting. You spend a lot of time on it, and you do have a lot of resources that you're looking at to give the information that you're giving the general public.
You especially like it when you can see the lyrics?
Oh yeah, that is actually my favorite thing. If I like the lyrics in a song, then I will go ahead and listen to the complete song, the words, the music, the whole thing, but it has to catch my attention first by having lyrics that I like.
Can you relate to 1922 and before?
Some of the songs I can, yes. Some of them that, that I like. For some strange reason, growing up, I did hear some of the 1922 songs. I can't exactly remember how come I heard them, but I did hear some of them.
They have some of the same topics. Like, you done me wrong and you stomped on my heart and I'm
and aggravating Papa.
I'm crying in my beer.
I'm crying in my beer, yeah. And you creep, look what you did to me, yeah. And some of them are good songs too. I mean, some of them are love songs, or, there's some religious songs that I happen to like in 1922 songs. So that's a big help. There's also some songs that have lessons to be learned in them. So that's a good type of song too.
Anything else you want to say about the project?
No, just my husband works very hard at it, and I would appreciate if you guys can at least give it a try and see if you like it, and maybe even perhaps if you have some kind of idea that you think that you may want to give Fred to try it or look into or something like that. We're open to suggestions. We may not do everything everybody suggests, but, we will attempt to look into any suggestions you may make. Thank you.
Aggravating Papa, don't you try to two-time me. I said don't two-time me.